Hey, how is everybody doing? Thank you so much for coming. I'm so excited about this. I'm shaking. I'm excited. Welcome to today's program, Hoop Dreams at 30. I'm Mark Baser, guest curator with Chicago Humanities. This is one of the many programs included in our fall festival, which has featured over 60 compelling conversations, powerful performances, and other events across the city. Bringing such conversations to life for you, our curious and committed audience, is our passion, and this is the 35th year of the Chicago Humanities. We thank you for joining us for the vast series of events seen here today and over the course of the fall season. Please mark your calendars and join us for our final programs of the season, including Nicole Hannah-Jones on November 13th, and an evening of music and conversation on December 4th with the Chicago Center for Contemporary Composition. Before we introduce our speakers, I'd like to give special thanks to our presenting partners. Those include Good Chaos, Friedman Properties, the Robert R. McCormick Foundation, and our fall season sponsors, Wintrust and Southwest Airlines. We'd also like to thank our members and donors for their generosity. If you love what we do, please consider joining today by visiting chicagohumanities.org or the box office. All right, a few words about our program. As I mentioned, we've had 60 compelling conversations. I've seen a bunch. They've all been great. This one, I'm so psyched about this one. Hoop Dreams was famously called the Great American Documentary by Roger Ebert. It's also, of course, a quintessentially Chicago film. Joining us today for the Hoop Dreams 30th anniversary is Arthur Agee and William Gates, along with director-producer Steve James, director of photography and /producer Peter Gilbert, and our moderator, J.A. Adande. I want to take a brief moment to mention that one of the producers unfortunately sends his regrets and couldn't make it, and that is Frederick Marx, but he is very upset that he's missing it, and he wants to thank you all for being here. Anyways, here to look back at the film that changed their lives while reflecting on what has and hasn't changed for young men and women chasing their dreams on the basketball courts. Please join me in welcoming Peter Gilbert, Arthur Agee, William Gates, Steve James, and our moderator from ESPN and Northwestern, J.A. Adande.
Wow, we'll get going. This is so thrilling for me, and it's exciting, and I know it's got to be great for you guys to be reunited. I'll ask right away, because we hear this phrase from the title, from the first song that comes in, and then in the very last line, we hear the word dreams so often in this. So going down the line, what do dreams mean to you, and has that changed, especially now you've been living in reality for so long? How do you define dreams?
Well, this whole project has been a dream for us, so that's one thing, but I think I learned a lot about dreams because of these guys, which is they had their hoop dreams, and then you start to realize how many other people sort of put their dreams and burden them in some ways with their dream. And so that's something that has never left me. But I love what they've done with their lives and how they've made their dreams come true, maybe in a different way than being in the NBA.
For me, dreams don't stop, baby. It was everything. Seeing Isaiah Thomas do what he do, that's what made me want to do it. I just dreamed just like everything that he did, I wanted to mimic it. So he the one made me believe that it could happen.
You have that moment in the film where you're playing him on the court one-on-one. He got you. You bit on the fake, but
oh yeah. Hey, I was a youngster. Let him try to do it now.
14 years old.
Let him try to do it now. I'm gonna foul him like a bad boy.
but for that moment, you were living your dream.
I was living my dream. I was just in awe. Then I was just so. I wasn't nervous, but I was just like, man, he's standing right in front of me right now. Like, let me touch him. Like, is he real? So yeah, Isaiah Thomas was my dream.
I told you I was gonna go off script, so this is one of my off script moments. Before I do anything, I want to acknowledge my mother sitting right there.
Emma.
Emma. Mama Gates.
David.
So I got a lot of my family here. I got my big brother David right there. His wife Julie. My big sister Peggy sitting right here. And her husband. He don't like his first name, so I'm calling him his last name. I got Scott sitting right here. And before
A Marshal Commando.
A Marshal Commando, absolutely. But before I answer that question, I just want to tell you, we talk about dreams. Let me tell you the sacrifice in the dreams, and this is my answer. My mother, at the age of 14, allowed me to leave her house and go live with my sister, Peggy, and her family. She had just recently was married, new in their relationship, growing and building their family. And it took so much for my mother to allow her 14-year-old son to leave her house. So many things my mom sacrificed and missed. I'm so grateful, Mom. I'm sorry, y'all, but I know I wouldn't be here if you had not made that decision. Because if you don't let me go to St. Joe's, I don't have a Hoop Dreams. So it was your sacrifice that allowed me to be even on this stage right now. So I want to tell you that I love you, I thank you, and that's the ultimate dream for me.
Yes.
Can you follow that up, Steve?
Why couldn't I sit there and him sit here? Well, yeah, that is impossible to follow. Except, for me personally, when we started this film, I remember saying to Frederick Marx, our other member who's not here today, it's like, if this film isn't any good, then I'm going to quit filmmaking. And he said, well, why are you saying that? I said, well, I love this game, and I had my own white boy version of the dream growing up. And I was like, if I can't make a film about this, then I don't deserve to make any film. And thank God you guys came along, because they're the film. And, so my dream happened too. My dream to have a film career is because of these guys, and that man too.
So I wonder to what extent, so it's interesting that you guys helped make these guys' dreams come true. The initial dreams that you set out didn't come to fruition, but in what ways did this movie and the exposure it gave you guys help other dreams come true?
Countless. I didn't know. Movie come out in '94. I'm not knowing the film is gonna touch this many people until probably it didn't really hit me until another 5 years after that. Say probably 97, 98, to where people, before kind of social media was implemented, where people will actually, get your phone number, call you, or send you a note, write you a letter or anything. You're like, I don't even know this guy. Where is he from? And they, man, I saw you, man. I was going through the same thing. My dad, my mom. He was like, man, you made me want to keep going, man. And I was like, I wasn't doing nothing but just being disciplined about what I wanted to do. And for someone else to see that and let you know that meant the world to them, it was just unbelievable.
So it allowed you to impact others.
Yes.
I think for me, it was the countless doors that it opened up. Sometimes it's still amazing that I'm like, this was our lives, and we're being applauded for our lives. First of all, that's the greatest feeling in the world. But when you go to places, they'll be like, man, ain't you Will Gates? I'm like, what? I don't owe you no money. What are we talking about? But they'll let you in places, or they'll pay for your meals sometimes. It's been, the people that we've met, it's been incredible. The parties you get to go to sometimes, it's been beyond what I could ever thought that it would do. Now, Ask me, would I trade that in for the NBA? In a heartbeat. Hoop Dreams could have been a failure. Give me the league any day.
NBA life is pretty good. I spent a lot of time around it. The opening shots of the scene, you guys are watching the 1988 All-Star game, which was played here at Chicago Stadium, and just
I had to give up my tickets to shoot that.
ooh, that's sacrifice. Sacrifice.
Very small sacrifice.
The look on your faces as you're watching that, as I'm sure you're dreaming of being out there. When you look now and you see the film, what do you see in those faces, those kids?
Man, I see innocence. I see innocence. I see that, that gaudy kid that was like I'm gonna do that. Like, and can't nobody tell me I'm not gonna do that. Like nothing. Like, I was just so disciplined and focused, and my mom and dad, they was like, yeah, okay, we really haven't seen you play, but we don't really know. I'm like, I'm gonna show y'all too. That's just how I was about it. But when Isaiah Thomas was out there playing back at home at the stadium, I was like, I gotta do it, and I'm wearing number 11. So that it was just that's what I see when I look at that part.
It was different in the Gates household. We saw that. That was the assignment. Because, see, I come out of a family of legendary basketball players. My brother Curtis was a beast on the floor. My brother David was a beast on the court. So when we saw it, our conversations was like, you can do it. It wasn't going to be done. Let's put the process in to get it done. So we watched it for educational purposes.
You were scouting.
But there was a lot of joy when you were watching
absolutely.
it. The joy, you exploded at certain times watching
because here's the thing, I was 14. I wanted to be Mike, still do. But the fact that, but when I watch it now, what I love about it is that, and I thank you guys for this, the fact that anytime I want to hear Curtis' voice, man, I can go to the film because Curtis dropped some gems in there. If you watch the movie, he was beyond his time. He dropped some gems. So there's still moments where I go and say, man, what was that scene there when Curtis said such and such? Because I use it on my kids. I change it up a little bit, but I use it on my kids.
I have to say, like, when we first met Curtis, we knew from William that he had been this huge player in Chicago. And so the first interview with Curtis, it's not in the film, but we were like, so Curtis, tell us about your game. What was your game? He goes, well, I'd get the ball and I'd come down and I'd dunk it.
Literally.
And I said, and so I go, well, yeah, okay, but then when you didn't dunk it, like what? He goes, no, I'd get the ball and I'd come down and I'd dunk it. And I remember after that interview thinking, he's 6'1", right? And he's talking about college ball now. He's not talking about high school ball. And I remember, I think I might have even said to Peter, I don't know about that, right?
Until we saw tape.
Yeah, and then we saw the tape.
Oh.
That's exactly what he did every time.
Something I hadn't thought till you mentioned it is, so your brother Curtis is no longer with it. Arthur, your father's no longer with us. This preserves them. So the opportunity, Arthur, when you get to see, family member who's not here anymore, every time you go back through this, not only are you reliving your life, but you're getting to spend time with people that you can't see anymore.
Oh, absolutely. It's a gem. My little brother, Sweetie, who you saw in the film, he passed away as well of a massive heart attack. But I love the moment when he was laying on the bed with my mom, and she had my Detroit Pistons hoodie on, a sweater on, and she was just talking, and I get to see his little butt. And then my dad, as we was watching the All-Star game, I'm like, the first thing I see is his wet Jerry curl. You know what I'm saying? So, like those type of moments. And then when we beat King, and he come into our locker room, and he just yelling, 26-2 now, 26-2 now. Yeah. And it just get chills all over your body just to see that.
One thing, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think the reality is too, there's no Hoop Dreams without Curtis and Bo.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, I think if it would have just been Arthur and I think it still would have been good. But though they were just as much as the principal parts as like we were. I mean, Bo and his animation for life, Curtis and his approach to life. I mean, they added so much to it. It's just, without them, there's no Hoop Dreams.
And Curtis living his dream through you.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, that is, the guidance, the older brother. And
I got a
wanting
funny
to
story
see us
about that
succeed.
too.
Yeah.
So his was weird. I told you I go off the script quite a bit. So his was weird. So Curtis was living his dream through me. And of course, throughout the movie, like I was like upset with Curtis, like, this is my dream, I can do it kind of stuff. So back in the 90s, I decided that I wanted to give basketball another try. And I go to Curtis. So everything he was trying to give me when I was like 14, 15, I didn't want it. So when I got like 25, 26, I'm like, Curtis, I need everything you got. But he became a different big brother. He was like, no, you got it. I was like, no, I need that guy that's that's on me. I need that guy that's, preparing me. So he became just this big old teddy bear later in his years. Incredible.
Can I say one thing real quick? I just want to, that Emma's here, and so many of the Gates family. I don't know if you have any family here. Some of my family's here, but I just want to thank the Gates family for trusting us. I mean, not only did they allow you to go out to out to St. Joe's, but they allowed us into your lives and into your family's lives. And that was an amazing thing for Steve and I. I mean, I still, 30 years later, and longer than 30 years, I still can't get over it, and I really love you for doing that for us. Thank you.
Thank you, yeah.
So now I have to tell a funny story on Emma. I don't know if you remember this, Emma. But, for the first couple of years of filming, Emma didn't really want to be on camera. I mean, she relented, let us film a little bit with her, but Will was clear with us, like, Mom's cool with me being in it and you being around, but she doesn't want you guys filming a bunch of her. And so we tried to honor that. And I think it really changed junior year when, I mean, I could have this wrong, Emma, but I think it really changed junior year when Will's had his first knee surgery. And she was in the waiting room, and we came out to film with her. And I think at that point, I felt like she realized, like, we weren't such bad guys after all. I mean, that we were, that we weren't, because she'd had a bad experience. I remember you telling me this, that she'd had a bad experience with media coming into Cabrini and filming interviews with her, and then presenting Cabrini as this terrible place, right? And she didn't say any of that.
Which was her home.
Right,
Yeah.
which is her home. So, not surprisingly, there was some suspicion about these white guys coming in doing this film, right? So we once we understood all that, we understood much better why she had reluctance. I hope I'm getting this right, Emma. But then when we had the premiere at the New York Film Festival, and there were like 2,500 people there, and we were all sitting up in the box, and Peter and I took turns kind of moving around to each of them to just sort of witness it with them, because they're in a box overlooking, 2,500 people watching their story.
Talking about a filmmaker's dream.
Yes.
That was
But
amazing.
I at one point I was sitting next to Emma, and she said, "Wow, if I'd known this was going to happen, I would have let you guys in a lot earlier."
Well,
do you remember that?
and that's part of it, is because we didn't know. So this movie, it's being made before the Real World and this onslaught of reality TV that I think really begins with The Real World on MTV in '92, and then by the end of the '90s, I think we've got Survivor and everything that's come since then. And so there's a purity, I think. So how do you think the movie benefits from preceding the reality TV craze, when everyone is used to having cameras on them all the time?
I would say I wouldn't even. I don't even want to be categorized in that venue with reality TV, because it's not. I say it's fake. It's all about ratings, and we didn't care about no ratings. We cared about getting out the hood, going to the NBA, period. It was survival. I played basketball for survival, to build my name up. It wasn't a game. It wasn't no YouTuber basketball. No. You got to go against Keywan Garris. You got to go against Lynn Moffitt. You got to go against all these guys in the neighborhood to prove to them in the neighborhood that you belong, that you're one of the greats. And so in doing that, I just felt it was a documentary film. That's why I always say it. Oh, y'all was reality TV people? No, we wasn't. My mom was just cool enough to let the guys in the house and film certain stuff that normally at that time you didn't get on camera. And I think that's what separates us.
I just tell people, plain and simple, it's the Jordan LeBron for me. We're Jordan and everybody else is LeBron.
Well, we know where you stand on that debate.
Hit the shoes again.
Well, I was just going to say, I do think it was a more innocent time in terms of people's feelings about media. That people, there wasn't social media. There wasn't everybody has a camera in their pocket. Everyone's documenting their own life. It was a different time, and I think that, but it also required a tremendous amount of courage from people like these guys and their families to kind of let us in, to let these strangers in to begin with, but also once things didn't go so well, like with Bo or with Will's injuries, to not kind of say, okay, we've had enough, right? Like, we don't really want to do this anymore. They stuck with it. They stuck with us, and that's what makes it such a courageous act on the part of them.
So I'll go a little out of order here, and speaking of documenting the good and the bad, if we can play clip 6. This is Arthur and William after William's team loses in Bronx State, I believe.
It hurt, don't it? Man, I ain't never want to go out this way, man. Well, last year, man. I'm trying to get it, man. I'm striving for the same thing. Hey, man, I'm gonna call you, man. Give you a ring, all right, boy? Play a good game, boy, all right? You're gonna be all right. I love you, boy. Love you too, man. All right.
So, Steve, I'll start with you on this. I believe this clip starts with, or that scene, as soon as the game ends and Will is walking off the court and the camera is right upon him. I think it's this scene.
Yes.
Were you uncomfortable doing that? Will, were you aware of the camera?
I don't even remember seeing the camera. I knew my family was waiting for me upstairs. And it's crazy, the moment, like it didn't take a couple of days to hit me. I knew right away that this is it. I think that's every athlete's worst nightmare, when you know this is the last time you're gonna put this uniform on, this is the last time you're gonna play on this level, and then to lose in that way. So with the camera being there, I was just lost in emotions. Truthfully, looking at it, I probably didn't even know I was talking to Arthur, to be honest with you. Because I went upstairs like a kid. I really was just looking for my mom. I was trying to find my mom, I was trying to find my brothers, because I knew that I needed them on a different level at that point.
And what was it like for you as the filmmakers in this very vulnerable moment to be right in his face?
I mean, it's always hard, but at the same time, we had built a relationship with them that I think was unbreakable by that point. And I think they were so in that it was important to tell their story, to have that moment, and have that moment between the two of them, that I guess my head was in story, which is documentary filmmaking in some ways. I got more emotional about it when I was done because I wanted to grab it and make sure that that moment was there. Afterwards, I mean, some of the best filmmaking time for Steve and I was driving home from things. When we would drive home and we would really talk about what we had just filmed and how emotional we got about it and what it was. But when you're in that moment, it's, I need this for this story and to do justice to it.
That day, I looked this up at one point because that was probably the single most significant day of filming if you had to pick one day. 9 minutes of the film happened that day. That's the day that Big Earl Smith shows up at his game.
In my game.
And then it's Big Earl's idea to go out to Will's game, and we're like, that sounds like a good idea.
It was so full circle.
It was just, and then he's
had to
talking.
ask me, though.
He had to ask
He
you.
had to ask me.
And he was and you're talking to Ping, and there's that scene with Ping, and then Will's last game.
Well, let's take it even further back than that, because that day, I was actually at my mom's house trying to get to the game. So the ride that was going to get me there was late. So I ended up getting to St. Joe's. We had to be down. Coach Ping had a strict regimen. You had to be downstairs at 6:30. If not, there was discipline that day.
So you don't start that game.
So I
because you're
don't
late.
start that game either. So I'm already on a down note. So and when he put me in the game, I didn't know even how to respond by not starting. I've been starting my whole career, and now I get in, it's like, and we're losing, and he's like, okay, William, bring us back. Huh? Didn't know what that was. So I was already, so I tied all those emotions in at that point at the end of the game. Because of course, when you're young, you're teenage, you're like, if he would have started me, we would have won. You know, you go through all of those emotions.
The other thing is, this is one of the few times in the film that we see the two of you together. So you guys have obviously
That
been.
we allow people to see us together.
Yeah.
Just think how good
the
this film
unknown
would.
story.
Just think how good this film would be if they had let us film that.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I also wonder, you know, you guys have obviously been tied together by this for the last 30 years, but what was your relationship at that time?
I adored him. Like, I wanted to be him. Like, I'm like, this dude is a prodigy. Like, I went to all his games. Like, I mean, when I was a freshman and they was playing on the road, I would go to all his games. I mean, I was there for him like it was my brother. So, you know, I love this dude.
You know, what's interesting is that I remember when I used to go home, sometimes I would take the Jackson bus home because Arthur would be out on the playground. So I would love to just stop, and if he was there, I would get out. And we would just ball for hours out there.
Oh my God.
Don't tell us that. Don't. Really?
Yeah. So look, hold on.
You know, if that had been in there, we'd have won an Academy Award.
So advice to filmmakers, ride the bus. Ride the bus, filmmakers. All you aspiring filmmakers out there, ride the bus.
So look, Jay, let me tell you about that though. That because when Earl asked me at my game, you know, because if you see in the movie when he comes up, I asked him, I'm like, man, what's up, man? Where you been? Because Earl hadn't been around ever since I had, you know, they kicked me out and I left. So now I'm emerging as a star. I'm feeling myself a little bit. My confidence is there. I'm a little cocky. So he asked me, he was like, I was thinking about going out to St. Joe's and watch them play Nazareth. And so I'm in the car like this. I'm like, this was, when I talk about moments that you thinking you're supposed to say no, but you really say yes, I'm saying yes in the fact of, I was finna say no. I'm like, nah, man, I don't want nothing to deal with them. But I'm like, nah, I get to see my boy Will play. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, and I done, you know, built up my status a little bit. I'm like, Cesare Christian, give me that Marshall jacket. I ain't even have a Marshall jacket. You see, it had number 30 on it. That was our Captain Cesare Christian jacket. I'm like, give me that jacket. Let me go out here and show these boys what's up. Like, yeah, I'm walking through the school now. Like, yeah, y'all see me. What's up? And I just knew he was from the bus Sean Pearson butt in Nazareth. But I ain't even know he got there late or nothing. I ain't know none of that.
I keep telling people I didn't get there late. I
He
just
did.
wasn't on time.
He just wasn't on time.
None of my students better try to use that one on me. I just say. One thing I realized rewatching this week is that it's really as much about the education system as it is about basketball. We've got a clip with that with Arthur and his family in Coach Gene Pingator's office. We can play clip number 1.
Basketball has to be second to your academics. If you don't get your grades, you're not going to play. If you work hard at the grades, and if you work hard at basketball, then I would be able to help you as far as going to college. And I guarantee this. I can't promise you where you're going to go and if you're going to be a star, but I guarantee that I would help you to get into the school that would be best for you. I'm making a commitment to you if you make a commitment to being part of this kind of a program.
That's the thing,
Sonny,
like,
but to me, that's the genesis of Hoop Dreams, that scene.
That's when it changed.
That's when it changed, because when you have that person, you know, a white suburban dude, coach, telling his family, promising, if you do what I tell you to do, you know, you're going to go to college.
Kid he just saw play once.
Once, yeah. And it was like, there it is. We need to follow this story. I mean, that was
the birth of the idea, like, oh, we're not just going to shoot for 6 months and
yeah, it was like, oh,
that's it.
4 or 5 years.
but Arthur, you know, as you said, you were skeptical then, and we kind of see throughout the movie when it comes to academics,
I mean, and I'm like, but
how's that perspective changed?
My thing was, in that moment when he said that, how my facial expression was, I'm like, dude, like, you don't know? Like, I was on an honor roll 6th, 7th, 8th grade in a row. Like, what do you mean if you don't take care of your studies? I'm like, my mama whooped my butt if my studies ain't in. So you talking about this comes second? Like, dude, don't worry about the grades. I'm gonna handle that part. But then being a kid, you just be like, man, in school, like, man, it's boring, man, ain't nothing to do. I wanna throw some spitballs. I'm one of them type of dudes. You know what I'm saying? I took it, I was like, I'm gonna just get C's. I'm cool with C's and B's. I may get a D or whatever. My mama get on me, hey, you better study and do this and that. I did not take education in high school like seriously like that because I knew I could do the work. Like I was like, the effort, man, that's all he needs, the effort and read a book, that's it. Like, and retain the information. I'm like, it was just simple. And now.
Since then, yeah.
Now it's like, I'm on a nonstop trying to learn everything. Like it's a education like field. I'm talking about, I wanna know everything. I mean, things that wasn't taught to me in high school. I'm so still mad about that right now today. I'm like, why are we reading this book and it ain't gonna be used 30 years later about something? And I'm talking about real life, real world stuff. You know, you only can get that when you seeing it in the street and you going, you know, seeing how people live with their lights turned off and stuff like that. What's really going on? You know what I'm saying? So.
And with your kids?
And with my kids, oh, they honor rolls, man. Devin, right now, he is a junior at Notre Dame College Prep, 3.5 GPA.
Yeah.
Well, my mom was on it. It was, I remember when I first went to St. Joe's, my mother looked me in the face and she said, I want you to go there, keep your head down, and do what you need to do. But that was always instilled in our entire family. My mom, being a single mom, I don't know where my mother got it from, but she knew education was important. I don't even know if my mother knew what education would take us, but she knew it was important. So I saw it. I saw my sister go to college. Even growing up in Cabrini Greens, I saw my brothers go to college. Like, going to college was not, you know, I knew I was going to go to college. I didn't know I was going to go to college and play basketball, but I knew I was going to school because that was something that was always instilled in us. So it was just in us. Now, talking about education though, I am so proud of my kids. I got 4 kids, 3 are college graduates, and 1 is a college senior right now, playing his senior year at Houston Christian University. So I'm grateful.
And for the people who don't know who you're married to. Yeah. For the people who don't know who you're married to.
Oh, yeah. You said they don't know?
I said if they don't know.
Oh, if you don't know, the girl that's in the movie, we just celebrated 31 years of marriage.
Yeah.
So, Will, you say something, when you first get out to St. Joseph's, you look around and you say, man, everyone around here is smarter than me.
Yeah.
You're saying, A, what made you think that, and B, when did you realize that wasn't actually the case?
I think what made it, I honestly believe what made me say that was I looked at the housing. I hadn't really ever, I grew up in the projects, so I only saw concrete. I didn't see a whole lot of grass. Look at this guy here.
When he left me in Sister Maryland class, for the kids who ain't doing that well for the test, he was in that class for like 1 week. He was like, all right, Agee, closed his book and left. I'm like, where you going? Oh, they done moved me up to honor classes. What?
But I went out there with a purpose, because all I kept hearing Curtis say was, don't let basketball use you, use basketball. So I kept seeing like that. But I think what made me change my mind, when I was sitting in the classroom and I was looking at some of the other students and they couldn't answer the questions, I was like, maybe they're not as smart as I thought they were. Because again, coming from Cabrini, and I just got to put this out here. My classroom, we were all black in my school. When I went to St. Joe's, this all white, they called it a preparatory high school. And when you get your teachers, I even remember Sister Marilyn. This was her exact words. You must be one really good basketball player for you to be out here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I knew at that moment that I was going to be different just from what she was saying.
Look, this what happened. So I just got to Arthur and William came into the school reading on the 4th and 5th grade. Like, no, he didn't. That's no. So look, there was an entry test, and it already had been set up that we going to this school. Like Earl, we going there. Oh, to play basketball for real? Yeah, but your mama got to pay half the money though now. Okay, all right. So we have to go out there early in the morning to take this entry test, and one of the dudes, the kids who was taking the entry test with us, he had a basketball goal in his driveway. And he was like, yo, if we get done early, we can come back over here and play in the driveway. Everybody looked at each other. I'm talking about like 10 guys. Like, what? Yo, just A, B, C. It was one of them. Fill in the blanks and all that. This is what we did, I'm telling you. I was
That's
like,
what he did.
I'm done with that test. I said, I'm done with that test in 10 minutes. They was like, this is at least a 40-minute test. I'm done.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this. I was reading the test. There were some things on the test I did not know. They was talking about boats and other countries and cities. I was like, we didn't study this in my elementary school. Right? But I will say this, in Sister Marilyn's defense, that woman put it on me and made me become a student. And I still remember her letters. She was like, serious students, I know it's crazy, y'all, I still remember this. Serious students study for success. And then she would look at me and say, William, if you want to be a great learner, you have to listen. And I always kept it with me.
Yeah. Sister Marilyn was a great one.
She was. She really was.
My favorite scene in the movie is when, Arthur, your mom passes the nursing test.
Oh,
and she's so happy.
Sheila Agee.
If you could describe that day in the household.
Oh, man, she getting ready. Steve and them there. I think, she was just brimming with confidence. Fixing her hair. She got on a white outfit and everything. And we get over there, and the first thing I say, I'm like, why all these chairs here? There wasn't number like 10 people out here. And I'm like, it was like, where are the other people, family members at, to support them and stuff like that. So, got past that. But then just watching her, and it was a surprise to me because I didn't know she got the highest score in the class. That kind of told me of how because my mom was born from Birmingham, Alabama, and so she went through all the civil rights stuff, and she know about education and wanting to get forward and move things forward. And she was, wanting to better herself. She just didn't want to be a registered, nurse and doing, cleaning up old people and just, all that stuff. She wanted to grow and get better in life. And I saw that in my mom. I saw how hard she studied and everything. And it rubbed off on me once I got to college and everything. But that woman is an amazing lady. She is an amazing lady. And I definitely want to thank her because, you know, she was the one who, you know, who allowed these guys to come to our home. You know, if she say no, you don't see Arthur, they have to go get somebody else. And when I came home and told her, she thought I was lying. I said, "If some dudes want to make a movie about me, they gonna be here at 5 o'clock tomorrow." She said, "Boy, get out of my face. Don't nobody want to make no movie about you. What are you talking about? That don't even sound right." So the next day, I met Earl at the playground at 5 o'clock, brought him over to the house, and they came up with the cameras on. She like, "Ah!" and ran out the room. Had false teeth come back, put up teeth in. "Hey, how you guys doing? Arthur told me you guys would come." I'm like, "Why are you talking like that?" That's Sheila Agee.
Peter and Steve, you guys, I'm sure when you started, you probably envisioned, you know, this would end with these guys cutting down the nets at the state championship game, but I feel like that turned out to be the biggest win in the movie is that night.
Which
you go
night?
first.
When she passes, she finds out that she passed the test and she gets her nursing certificate. That feels like the biggest win in the movie to me.
Well, it's a big one, but you know, I don't know if I'd call it the biggest win. I mean, it's. I think part of it is just what Arthur was talking about. It's so unexpected. Yeah. You know, these families both defy the stereotypes, right? That people grow up with, particularly white people grow up with, about what black people's lives are like, right? And so her dedication, despite all they were going through,
And it was a lot.
it was a lot to do that and succeed at that and get the highest score in the class and all of that. I think that's what it speaks to. I mean, I remember when the film was done and out, I was in LA, and I have an uncle out there, and he took me to lunch because, you know, of Hoop Dreams. That's the only free meal I got. and I definitely didn't get invited to any of the parties you were invited to. But he sat there and he said this with a straight face. He said, "You know, until I saw your movie, I didn't get it that black families want the same thing for their kids as white families do." And I kind of wanted to slap him, but then I realized he was actually, it had been a revelation to him, and it just was like, how's that possible?
The comments like that were constant while we were making the film. You know, like people would say, "Oh, you're shooting the projects. I mean, is it filthy?" It's like, what, people don't have pride? You know, I mean, it was endless throughout this whole moment. I mean, you could eat off the floors of either homes, you know, I mean, it just, all of it was like that.
I think the lesson was, you know, the aspirations, the dreams are the same, but the challenges are different.
Exactly.
That's what this showed. Right?
And I will say that scene that you're talking about, that's where, when I saw that scene, I knew Steve was going to be one of the goats of documentary filmmaking, because the way that scene is edited really plays how it felt to us, where it was this beautiful moment, but there was sadness to it too, because no one was there. And when I saw that cut, it was like, he's got the chops. You know, so that was really amazing.
Well, it's shot pretty good too.
We'll take questions for the remainder of the time. If we have microphones going around.
Great. Yes, folks, if you have a question, please raise your hand and we will come around with a microphone for you. We do have quite a few folks. We want to get to as many questions as possible, so we ask that you keep those questions clear and concise for our presenters.
Before we start, people would like to know if there's anyone else
Is Adam here?
who worked on the film. Can you stand up, please?
Adam?
Adam Sink.
Yeah, those who
Yeah,
worked on the
Adam,
film.
Adam. Love you, Adam.
I ended up doing sound because of budgetary reasons, although Adam worked for free a lot. And we were going to put a credit in the movie that good sound by Adam Singer, bad sound by Adam.
And Adam was also the one who said to us, You're going to shoot another basketball game? Really? Why are you shooting all these basketball games? You got enough basketball.
I saw a hand go up way up at the top. Can we get a microphone up there?
Who's that up there?
All right, we'll get that one first, and then later, let's make sure we get that person up there.
Hello? Oh, hi. Thanks for doing this. And I want to think about a lot of players these days. They're doing their own things. You know, they have their own companies. They're doing their own social media stuff. So as filmmakers, and I think for you, J.A., too, how do you convince people that there's still value in having, you know, people from the outside, journalists and filmmakers come in and shoot people? Because I think we're kind of losing that. It's not the same if, you know, LeBron's production company or Kevin Durant does that. Like, you know, the value of, you know, journalism and film that's not controlled by the player.
So I do think there's still, and media's hurting more than ever for sure, but I do think, and even the players understand the value of having something sort of vetted by a third party, an outside party that isn't being paid by you. And I think the prime example of that was Draymond Green after he punched Jordan Poole a couple years ago. You know, and here he was, you know, the podcast king, and he's always talking about new media and this, that. But what did he do? Before he even went on his podcast, he did a press conference with the media, because he understood that for him to sit there and not face any questions from the outside, it would come across as inauthentic. And so at that moment, I said, okay, there's still a role that, you know, and in reporting, you know, you can't publicize if you're thinking of trading a player, right? You still need the media outside to do that. So as compromised, as weakened, as diminished as the traditional media has been, there is still a role.
Well, and the other thing is that a lot of the projects I think you're referring to are profiles or of athletes who have made it big and are famous and had amazing careers, right? Those are the ones that those athletes have some control over. And I don't blame them for feeling that way, because they're in a position of power to demand that, and it's their story, so I get it. I think what's less likely to happen these days in the world of documentary is the kind of stories that we did, which is doing stories about somebody nobody's heard of. And
do you think you could get that sold today?
I think it's harder now to follow those kind of stories and have people want to. I mean, it was impossible to fund it back then. Yeah. But there was a time in recent years where it became easier to do those kind of stories, and now it's gotten harder because we're so focused on celebrity.
Yeah, I mean, and if you have celebrity and true crime mixed together, then you've got a winner. Yeah.
I mean, the year after this comes out, we've got the OJ trial, right?
Yeah.
Which probably changed the game. That was the ultimate combination of what you were talking about, right?
All right, I have another question right here in the back.
My name is Joey McDermott, and I'm a CPS graduate, Lincoln Park High School, 91, so same as you, 91. Been a CPS educator for the last 27 years, coach, basketball coach. So I have two questions. One for Arthur. I taught at Crane from 98 to 2010.
Glad you're still here.
And every time we played Marshall, we had a saying, it's personal. And so, as someone who came up in the Red West, and we're talking, you know, Westinghouse, Austin, Crane, Marshall, Whitney Young was in it for a long time. And so we have seen the demise of the Red West and West Side basketball. So my question will be I want to hear your thoughts on the Crane-Marshall rivalry and what does it mean to have played in the Red West. And then for William, you know, I think you went to Jenner? Yep. Okay, so we had Jenner players on the Lincoln Park team. What would it have been like had you gone to Lincoln Park? Did you think about going to Lincoln Park? Did you know people that played for Lincoln Park?
Let me answer mine before Arthur does, because his is probably gonna be a lot better.
No, I'm going to come.
Interesting enough, my brother Curtis, my whole family went to Wales High School. And when I was coming out of 8th grade, Curtis was like, I do not want you to go to Wales. He actually wanted me to go to Lincoln Park. So I was heading to Lincoln Park until St. Joe's came in. So I almost was Was LP for a minute.
Red West battles, man. Let me tell you. Farragut, Manley. I mean, it wasn't no let-up game where you can say, oh, we got an easy one today. No, it kept you on your toes. It was some 8th grade dude that was coming out as a freshman going to one of these schools. And the biggest rivalries in the West, in the Red West, was Marshall Crane, Marshall Westerhouse, Marshall Farragut. Though it was those three. But you see, it's always Marshall, so. Luther Bedford didn't do no recruiting. He didn't go out and seek out no 8th grade. I'm gonna coach what's in the building. I can find out at tryouts who I want, how they maneuver through the layup line and everything. To answer your other question, you just have to have a pit bull, dog, tough, just fabric about you to even play on the West Side. I'm talking about even outdoors. Forget about a school, just outdoors. Because there were many guys that was out there that didn't even go to school that what you had to battle against and make your name. And they was like a little bit older than you. So you going up against them, no, you was getting your kudos, you know. Now the demise of the Red West, you got the violence. Parents had been doing a little bit better for themselves. So now they want to move out to the suburbs. I don't want my kid going to, and this kid is a great basketball player. So now he's going to Stevenson. Now he's going to Proviso West or one of these other schools. I mean, I'm talking about this like a trove of parents who said, nah, I'm not finna let my son go to that school because things has changed from the 90s to the 2000s. And that, I mean, you get the last era of real Red West basketball was Kevin Garnett, Quinn Richardson, that group of guys. And, you know, now it's just, you know, it's it's looked at as a regular Chicago basketball conference now. You know, you might can get 2 kids out the Red West that can go and play Division I basketball, starting like right in. Like that's how Arkansas State, I went right in starting point guard. Mineral Era Junior College, I went right in starting point guard. Because coaches know he had a dog on his team. I was gonna bring it. I was gonna be the first one in and the last one to leave.
You know, when Luther Bedford passed away, I'll never forget this. They had like a wake at Marshall in the auditorium. His casket's like up on the stage. And the place was packed. And at one point, I don't know who it was, you might remember who it was, but at one point, some guy who was part of this whole, you know, ceremony got up and he said something like, Luther Bedford, the coach of the Marshall Commandos, the best high school in the best division of basketball in Chicago, in the country, you know, and the place just went up. I mean, the place just, everyone was on their feet clapping. That's the pride of the Red West. You know.
I wish we had a little more Luther Bedford in the movie. He was such an amazing.
Let me tell you about this guy. Luther Bedford, when we won the city championship, we just beat King, and he's still yelling at us. Get over here and take a picture. Man, Coach, man, chill out, man. We just beat 2 Twin Towers, man. We got a whole West Side City championship ready, man. Come on. I don't care. Like, Coach.
But he would bring groceries to your family.
Yep. Yeah, Coach was more than just a coach. He would, you know, he was that extension of my dad, my mom. You know, I'm doing crazy stuff in school, being a class clown. He would tell me. He wouldn't never like not let me play though, but he would sit me in his office. He got a paddle too, so you want to play? You want to play or you want the paddle? I want to play. Well, I got to get the paddle because I didn't did some stupid stuff and I turned in my work. So he was very much a disciplinarian, and he just always told me always think before you do things, Arthur. He was like. You know, I got a few kids come to me, a few coaches come to me, ask me about that kid. Ooh, I like that kid. And he was like, man, something's wrong with Arthur.
Luther was the best interview ever. 20 minutes with him was like doing 3 hours with someone else. I mean, he was just incredible.
Hold on.
And a real truth teller. I mean,
Did y'all, I'm talking about, this is his real stuff while he on camera. Did you see the part where the coach asked him, yeah, his parents may seem to think he gonna pass the ACT. He may what? This was Luther Bell for real. He was like, pass the ACT, Arthur. See, that's really what he's saying. Like, yeah, okay. I hope. And then he said he cleaned it up. He's like, oh, the camera on me. I hope he does.
Well, and I remember when we did that first major interview with him, which I think was an hour long and 59 minutes of it was great, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, at one point he was being so tough.
Yeah.
Right. I tried to
like
throw him a
lighting him up.
softball, and I said, well, you really care about the kids, and you're probably like a father figure, and he was really, right. But his answer was, no, I got kids of my own. I'm not going to go chasing around after these kids.
yeah. And he'd be like, every kid on my team needs help. Yeah. I don't, everybody's got a problem. Yeah. He was amazing.
One last question.
Right here.
My name is Steve Timble, and Steve, you probably don't remember this, but I saw the premiere at the San Francisco International Film Fest, and we had a beer and chatted afterwards.
Did you buy or did I buy?
I think I bought because I was so happy. I was a Chicagoan in San Francisco, so I was like a snowflake at the equator. And to see some Chicago guys and see this film. And I want to say thank you first to everybody up here for changing my life, because Hoop Dreams did things for me that are hard to express, but one of them is it made me want to raise my family in the city. One of them, it made me never want to give up on Chicagoans and people in general, that everybody had these dreams and these things could happen. It made me understand that filmmaking, and I was big on film, but filmmaking can be real, right? It doesn't have to be a fantasy to be a great film. And then I want to say that what you guys did with Hoop Dreams, like, now as adults that you're here talking to us, but as kids, right, that you went through it, let us see that was huge, because my kid goes to Whitney Young now. He's not a basketball player, okay. But the things that I saw you go through as kids informed me as an adult to how I wanted to be a parent. Like your parents kind of informed me, and one of you two, I have the Hoop Dreams box edition, so I have to go back and look at it, but maybe both you guys sort of said this one, the other said, like, I wish I had a little more help with this or a little more help with that. And so as my son and my daughter have gone through college or through high school and college, I've been like, what can I help with? How can I be present for them to help them see their dreams? And like seeing that happen was huge to me. And so I want to say just a big, big thanks. Mm-hmm. Big thanks to you guys. And then the question is this. Marshall is not the Marshall that you went to. No. St. Joseph's is gone. It's heartbreaking, but it's gone. Basketball still happens in Chicago. Kids are still coming up in Chicago. But it's very different now. And so I would love to hear, William and Arthur, any kind of insight or any kind of thoughts you have on raising a kid in the city and helping them achieve their dreams in the city that we live in now.
Boy, that's an impactful question there.
Yeah, very, very. You want to go first? Because hey.
How many mayoral administrations have tried to tackle that since this movie?
Exactly. Right. All I can do is kind of base it on this. As I was raising my boys, before we moved to Texas, we lived on the west side of Chicago. And I just remember wanting everything for them, even from basketball to whatever it was. And I remember I was extremely tough, especially on my oldest son, Will Jr., because he was the first and he wanted to play ball, and I felt like I needed to give him everything. And I was so just in his face with it. And I remember my wife, she actually gave me the best advice. She said, let me tell you something. You're gonna look up one day and you're gonna miss the show. And it opened my eyes. I viewed it differently. I started valuing everything he was doing, his tries, his success, his misses, everything. I remember his last game his senior year, and I looked him in his face. I said, William, I am so proud of you. He lost, and he looked at me like, Dad, you like he didn't know what to say. So my encouragement would be to you is just don't miss out on the show trying to give them everything. Participate in it with them, and y'all will learn together.
Great. You know I'm finna come with it, right? From a kid who saw Isaiah Thomas get up and go travel 2 hours and get to St. Joe's. You saw me take that walk to the train, getting on the bus with this guy, then go and get on another train, get off that and take another bus, and then walk through a cemetery just to get to school.
Where we ran.
Well, we did run. I used to sell my bus tokens just so I could have something to eat after practice. Because at this time, I start riding a bike from the west side of Chicago to Westchester. See, wasn't nobody doing that. Wasn't no 14, 15-year-old kid. I know. I was that wise enough to know I'm doing everything Isaiah Thomas do to make it work. I don't care what I had to go through. Now we try to make these kids, because they're growing up and we living in life, I'm gonna make it harder. I got to show you that there's gonna be some times that gonna come, adversity, you gonna have to fight through on your own. Daddy gonna be there, but you're gonna have to figure it out. I'm gonna give you little vices and stuff like that, but I cannot hold your hand because it wasn't given to me like that. People all around the world was inspired by our real life stories. So I don't know no other way, to not, give it to a kid in the raw. I have to know what's your day to day. What are you doing? How focused are you? How bad do you really even want it? I like the hungry kid, the kid that you have to touch him and wake him up and all that. I like the kid that's already up, got his book bag ready to go. And that's what we don't have right now today. Everybody want to pacify.
And this is the difference
these
between Arthur Agee and Will Gates.
I want to I'm not pacifying you. I got to let you know the world is not finna be nice. They not finna help
and my
you.
thing is this Arthur and I have had this conversation a million times.
Yeah,
we have had deep arguments
yes.
like about this conversation.
Yes.
And my perspective has always been this. I agree with in terms of the approach. Hey, you want it, you got to go fight for it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I've also recognized this too. I never wanted to push the kid away from the game. I don't want to push the kid away from getting the experience in life that they need to get to.
Look, I could come back on them on that one. Yeah, I'm not finna help you fall in love with basketball.
See, it's not about helping them fall in love. I said push him away.
I'm not pushing you towards nothing. My daddy did not push me towards basketball. He didn't even know I can play until he came across the court.
And that just shows you the difference in the perspectives how we grew up. I grew up to love the game because I saw my brothers loving the game. So they gave me that perspective.
Yeah.
You heard Arthur say this earlier. He said that even when he wanted to go to St. Joe's, you said your parents was like, what you going out there for?
Yeah.
So to me, that's what I'm saying. It's just those two different perspectives. And we can find a balance in between. But right now, we on the opposite sides of that approach.
We can. So
you guys should have a podcast.
It just takes me back.
Speaking of podcasts, we do have a podcast called the Agee and Gates podcast, Hoop Dreams podcast. Please go out and subscribe. And also a shameless plug. I'm about to do a shameless plug. I wrote a book called Hoop Dreams, The Fifth Quarter, and you can get it on Amazon.com today.
Arthur, you got anything else to plug? We got to wrap up. Get it in.
Let your kid learn and love it on his own.
Steve, Peter, and
listen. He says that, I know we got to go. He says that, but on our podcast, the first question we always ask a lot of people, who put the ball in your hand? Put the ball in his hand.
Steve, Peter, any projects coming up?
I'm in development hell, I develop stuff and then maybe somebody will say yes and we'll actually make it.
I am in development hell also. Yes.
Hold on,
and,
let me get your plug out there.
We will
I
get
I
things
think
done.
William and Arthur should film you guys
But-
trying to get your projects
but
approved,
exactly,
right?
but-
Let's bring it full circle.
One thing, William, the comment you made in the movie about at the end, will people remember me? I think they do.
Yes, sir.
30 years later.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll wrap up. Thank you so much. It's so great to be on the panel with everyone. Thanks, everyone, for coming and joining us tonight.
Look out for Hoop Dreams 30. It's not a part 2, but it's me and Will.
That's right.
We coming at you.